about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's go, let's be free with me. Be free. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts. Be free.
Good evening and welcome to our latest revision blast. I'm joined this evening by Katie. Hi Katie.
Hiya, how are you?
I'm alright, thanks. Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to it today. So yeah, we've listened to you guys around what you want, and we're here
Yeah,
to meet your requirements.
absolutely. We're doing requests this year, at least for the time being, at any rate. So a couple of weeks ago, someone in the chat window suggested going for a sort of synoptic approach, and we looked at globalization last week. And this week we are looking at social class and ethnicity. And we might go on and look at gender on a future occasion. So, I mean, should we get straight into it? Oh, just quickly, I suppose. What the other thing I was going to say is we're not restricting to one topic by looking at something synoptically. Of course, we're looking across the topics. So some of the activities might be focused on education or on crime, but there might be opportunities as well to talk about social class and ethnicity, more broadly in relation to some of your optional topics, etc. Obviously,
And also, sorry, I was about to say before we crack on with it. Obviously, as sociology, we've not mentioned International Women's Day. I was thinking afterwards we should have done gender today.
Should have done gender today. Absolutely.
I know, but just thought about that before we crack on.
Yeah.
So just to
Happy
be mindful of it.
Happy International Women's Day to you. I don't know if people wish themselves Happy International Women's Day, but anyway, they should do. And before anyone asks, there is an International Men's Day, but I can't remember what date it is. But people always say, when's International Men's Day? I don't know why. Anyway, right. First activity, Katie. What's going on here?
What's going on? We're doing a connection spinner. I quite like the connection spinner just because I think it gets you to think about maybe how that might link to different things. I think it lends its well to I can't even say synopticity. I can't even say it because my brace.
Synopticity.
Synopticity. There we go. I'm struggling with anything that's requires me to use my roof of my mouth. Anyhow, the social class. We'll be looking at how that links to one of or a couple of your topics. Yeah, there they are. So we've got a selection there. We've got education, family, crime, methods and beliefs. We're going to spin that wheel, and what I'd like you to do, if you've not been here before and partaken, there, write in the chat any keywords, studies, anything you can think of when you can link it between the topic and social class. So anything that comes to mind. So we're going to spin that wheel.
And don't worry if it's not your, if it lands on an optional topic and it's not yours, you might well be able to make some links anyway, because there's a lot of links across the topics. But anyway, here we go.
That's where is it going to land? Oh, I thought it was going to go into family then. So it's education. So we're going to write down anything you can think of that links social class to the education unit. So what do you know? What comes to mind? Write it in the chat and we'll read out some of the answers. Sharing is caring. So when you think of social class and education, what keywords, studies, theories, data potentially?
Concepts. Oh,
yeah. So need to talk about material and cultural deprivation. You've got material deprivation. Could even break that down. We've got a lot of material deprivation. How can you break that down a bit more than just the global sort of idea of material deprivation? How might that sort of manifest itself? Paul Wilson and the lads with the Z at the end of that. Got Becker culture capital. Parents may not value education or may have different aspirations potentially. Excellent. Anything else? Any other studies
loads of stuff coming through.
Yeah.
Got speech codes, Bernstein.
Fantastic.
Got material deprivation. Got working class experience, higher rates of educational failure due to external and internal factors. We've got labelling.
Oh, brilliant.
Parent values.
Fantastic.
I had a little laugh earlier because you said Becker cultural capital. I was thinking, surely you mean Becker labelling, as Bourdieu said cultural capital, and then I realised, it's someone called Becker. Someone called Becker who said it. Sorry. So yes. Becker in the chat window.
About it.
Becker in the chat window.
Yeah.
Not Howard Becker.
Not Howard, not the hacker Becker. Housing conditions, someone's broken that down a little bit more in regards to material deprivation. We've also got poor diets, so that's fantastic. We've got Sugarman and working class values of the immediate and deferred. And then I see someone's talked about ideal pupils. So we've got lots there. So fantastic. They're coming a little bit slower on my one, so you might have to do some for me, Duncan.
That's all right. We also got a question.
We've got a lull.
Yeah, we also got a question earlier asking where Mr. Sociology was, which I assume is Craig. And Craig's not wasn't able to join us tonight, but he will be here very, very soon. He'll be so won't be gone long. Okay.
I've got educational triage as well.
Yeah, we've got educational triage from Mira. We've got children from working class backgrounds will have restricted speech, whereas middle class speak elaborate. I think a few people have mentioned codes. We've got anti-school subcultures, we've got meritocracy, we've got setting and streaming parentocracy. Obviously, some of these you might need to make the link to social class. Make that more explicit. There is a link to social class, but you need to be clear on what it is. As I say, like some of the educational triage and some of these points, you absolutely can link them to social class, but you need to make it explicit. I think sometimes. Sometimes we sort of imagine, the person reading this, the examiner or the teacher or whatever, knows what I mean, so I don't need to say it. But you need to, bang them over the head with your answer. Make sure they can see your chain of reasoning. Why these
definitely,
things
especially for the shorter questions. I think any sort of shorter questions, the temptation, particularly if you work sometimes backwards and you do the long questions first and then go to the shorter questions, might not allow the time to do that sort of unpicking. Exactly.
We're only talking a sentence, aren't we? But it's just making that clear link. Yeah,
definitely.
Shall we?
Perfect.
See what you put up there.
Yeah, pretty much similar things that you've written, but you've written a lot more detail than I have, and obviously you've explained it with elaborated and restricted codes as well, and you talked about a lot more concepts and a lot more names. So fantastic stuff. Should we spin that wheel again?
Yeah, I was just going to say one thing to to praise people for in the chat window, because they did this very well, is if you get a question about social class, and obviously this is a very open question, just give me give me ways it links. You can talk about middle class and other classes, not just about the working class. Same as when we talk about gender, you don't just have to talk about women. So you did that very well, incidentally, with people talking about the ideal pupil and elaborate code and stuff.
Meritocracy,
meritocracy. Yeah. Okay. So next up, what's it gonna be?
Ooh,
Let's
I don't know.
spin the wheel. Have you noticed we've got sound this week? That's exciting, isn't it?
Crime. So again, hopefully you sort of at the end maybe of crime, or you have finished at the beginning of your year 13, making the links to social class and crime. Where does your head go to? What are you thinking of? What concepts, key concepts, studies again, data potentially.
Don't worry if you're still doing crime. Incidentally, people do things in different orders, or you might have two teachers and say split. And there's lots of ways people might do these things.
Excellent. So again, things got relative deprivation, which would be linked to Lee and Young. We've got the Merton and Strain theory. You've got selective law enforcement, I presume, of the classes. Working class overrepresented in official statistics. You've got subcultures, typification. Again, those sort of links into that explanation. This is really good stuff.
Loads and loads of stuff. There was more. I just realised more stuff came in about the education after we'd stopped. After we'd stopped paying attention. There was cream skimming and silt shifting habitus, grammar schools.
I haven't got any of that stuff.
Nike identities, people identities. All that stuff. Anyway, that was on the last one. We've got upper class and making the laws, as well as the selective law enforcement. We've got law creation, absolutely. Rational choice, underclass Murray, illegitimate opportunities, middle class and corporate crime, criminogenic capitalism, Cloward and Olin, the smokescreen of fairness, Snyder, police officers' typifications of middle class and working class, negotiation of justice, majority of people in prisons are working class. Wow, loads of stuff coming through. Corporate crime is less detectable due to complexity and rarely persecuted. Right realism, white collar crime. Oh
well, there we go. We should have the exam tomorrow. That's what I say. No joking.
Broken windows.
Wilson and Kelly. So lots of great stuff there. I think this is really good. It's lovely to see a refresher. And if you're sitting there, and you're like, there's stuff that you might think, oh, actually, I've not heard that. Again, remember, as we said before, different teachers, different textbooks will have different studies and different concepts. So this is not saying this is, if you've taught something different or been taught something different, that's fine too. So.
Oh, have you seen that? I've never seen it put that way before, but I like it. The criminal justice system focused on crimes of the street rather than crimes of the suite.
Oh, I've never heard of that like that. That's nice.
I like it. Yeah, that's good.
I like it. Yeah.
Left realism, marginalisation, relative deprivation, loads of great stuff coming through there.
Fantastic.
Well done.
What
did you have? Lots of the same stuff.
I had, lots of the same stuff, but not as much range as that. I got here, obviously, of crime as well, which also links to the sort of blue collar crime you were talking about, the white collar crime you were talking about earlier, and smoke screen of fairness. So amazing stuff. Okay, excellent. I think it's good to have that range. I'm going to pass over to you now for the picture grid. Okay,
so sticking with crime for the time being, but thinking about ethnicity now for a moment. We're going to see some questions about ethnicity. As you answer the questions, it will also reveal a square from a picture, and so the kind of secondary question, the other question is who is the picture of? Okay, so and that will also be relating to the topic, which is a clue, I suppose. Okay, so first question, apart from what's the image behind the grid, what report suggested that the Metropolitan Police was guilty of institutional racism in 1997? Okay. Do we know which report found the Metropolitan Police guilty of institutional racism? And Rachel's correctly identified the background to it, which was the Stephen Lawrence murder. Mira and Irfath have identified that it was indeed the Macpherson report. Yeah. Epic. Okay, well done. Lots of people getting Macpherson. Well done. Okay. Next question. Oh, there's a bit of the picture, by the way. I'm not sure that's giving us much to go on, though. I think we might have to see more pictures, more squares than that.
That's my catch. That was, the sound in catch. That's sorry.
What,
That was the sound
countdown?
they make.
Oh,
No, in
catchphrase.
catchphrase.
Oh, right, yeah. Yes, okay. Yep. Sociologist associated with policing the crisis. Oh, and well done.
Oh.
Hall et al. It is Hall et al. Wrote Policing the Crisis. And the sociologist specifically we're looking for there is Stuart Hall. From the Birmingham Cultural Studies Centre. Who looked at that? Yeah, Samaya Mira. Lots of people getting Hall there. Okay, I was once mistaken for Stuart Hall at a conference, which is quite strange because I was a lot younger than him, and I'm not Jamaican, and I think it's just because my
surname.
Just my surname's Hall. There was a Dr. Hall speaking at the conference, and I think they were excited at the prospect that it might have been Stuart Hall, but it wasn't. It was just me, sadly. But okay. Not sure that's helping us either. Is it just someone's shoulder? Okay. Approach that suggested black crime is higher due to marginalisation and deprivation. Okay, so which sociological approach or perspective thinks about marginalisation and relative deprivation?
I think it's mentioned a couple of times. If you look,
people were coming up to it in relation to social class. You absolutely can link it to ethnicity as well. And lots of people come in with the right answer. Mira, Neve. We've got an anonymous commenter as well who's got some really good answers. And yeah, Aisha, well done. It is indeed left realism. And we've got a bit more of the picture. This might be someone you've never seen a picture of before, of course.
Yeah, I'm thinking this. You may have not.
But it is a name you would know. In fact, so that's something to bear in mind as we go through this. I've actually got a book by said person on my shelf. Oh, Mira's suggesting it might be Gilroy. We shall see, Mira. Let's see. And the answer to question 3. Yes, sociologist who suggested there was a myth of black criminality is definitely Gilroy, so well done. And we shall see if the picture is as well. I don't think the next square is going to help us much, actually. Just the background. Which sociologist suggested that oppressive policing led to overrepresentation of black males in crime statistics? More than one sociologist has made this conclusion, so you might suggest a different one from the one that's going to appear behind there, but if you've covered this, let's see. Incidentally, whenever we mention names, I think this is always an important point. If you're ever sitting there thinking, I don't know that name, I'm going to fail. There are different names in different textbooks, different teachers will teach different things. We don't have to see the same names. It's fine if other people know something or know a sociologist that you don't. You probably know someone else who's reached similar conclusions or whatever. So don't worry unduly about that. And as also we often say, the concept is much more important than the name. If I've suggested Sewell, Tony Sewell. I'm not sure Sewell would put it down to oppressive policing. And Mira's suggested maybe Gilroy again. Neve has suggested Phillips and Bowling, and that was who we were going for, so very well done, Neve. But yeah, other people have referred to this as well at other times. And the last one, a politician who examined ethnicity in the criminal justice system in 2017 did a report into this. You may have
watched some news clips, maybe.
Might have come across it. You might just know it by the name of the report if you hadn't sort of associated it with the leading Labour politician, current Labour politician. When I say leading, that might be misleading. It's not like Keir Starmer or something, but someone high. But yes, well done. It is the Lammy review. Well done. It is David Lammy. Yeah, who senior Labour politician. Okay, and well done. I think it was Mira who got it early on. It is indeed Paul Gilroy on the picture. So very, very well done. And we had him referenced earlier, didn't we? The myth of black criminality. Okay, so very good. I'm going to go back to Katie. We're hopping back to social class and education.
We are. This is just a quick one. It's just write down what you can. Come on, how long have we got on the clock, Duncan? Can you remind me?
I think it's 30 seconds. I think
it's 30 seconds. So if you've got a question on social class, what are the indicators of social class that education uses officially? Okay, so how do we know? It might be referenced in an item in an exam potentially, and that's why I've chosen this as a question. You won't have like a direct question potentially on it, but it might be something used in the item, and from that you're supposed to glean they're talking about social class. So what are the indicators of social class within education? How's that measured? Let's see what we come up with. 30 seconds, are we ready?
Yeah, here we go. Have you got your bongos ready, Katie?
I've got the castanets out.
I've got my bass guitar. It's coming in a sec. So by indicators, I suppose we're looking for the way you might measure. So the way you.
I think we're pretty. We've got processes of how you might create or reproduce social class here, but we've definitely got 2 answers already in the list. I've seen 2 that are correct.
Yeah.
So, okay, it was very quick, 30 seconds. We actually got 2 correct answers in there, and that is
brilliant. Well
preschool
done.
meals and pupil premium.
Yeah. Mira's gone with catchment area, potentially.
I know that, yeah, potentially, because I know that postcode
yeah.
schools, particularly when you apply for university, you get what's called a contextual offer, don't you, sometimes? So based on catchment area, particular postcodes. But normally the indicator you might see is preschool meals or pupil premium. That's normally the reference points, potentially catchment areas as well, but definitely preschools and pupil premium. So fantastic, well done, guys. Lots of other great answers, by the way. That's more sort of going back into how social class might be reproduced in some way. Now,
I might link to this activity
on this question. So, yeah, it might do. So what we want you to do, or I would like you to do, is there's some numbers with some concepts. The quickest way to do that is assign a number to whether it's an in or out school factor. I'm putting it out there already. It's not as simple and rigid as that. And really, in hindsight, I probably would have put a 3rd column, which is both. So if you want to do in, out, and both, I'm happy for you to do that as well, actually. I'm not that precious, because some of them I was like, is it really in, is it really out, or is it both? So have a go. I think we've got a minute on this one. So what concepts, what keywords do you think are associated with in-school factors? Which ones are associated with out-school factors? And if you can think of anything that's both, plop it there as well. Best just to assign the number rather than writing out typing out the whole word.
Yeah. So you might put, say, in 6 or something like that, just to summarize quickly what you're going to do. And just that thing about both, I mean, there are some that we always say are in and some that we always say are out, but actually they're always interplay, and that's a really good evaluative point, maybe something in a conclusion or whatever, that you'd say, actually, this is, the 2 things do link together, don't they? Because it's something that happens outside school, but it's what happens inside school that actually ends up making the outcome. Or something that happens inside school is based on assumptions based on what happens outside school. Anyway, sorry, let's start the clock.
Yeah, let's get some answers. Let's start going.
Quite a few coming in.
Yeah.
And already got some debate on those 2 we discussed beforehand.
And I think an examiner will think about how you write it, and your explanation and your justification is clear. Some of those could be both, for sure. So,
some good both ones, actually.
Yeah. Clearly some that are definitely out, but then you could answer, like you said before, some could be both.
I always think that
Wow.
music's like, like when you some of those like competitive cooking type shows where it's like really high pressure or something like that. Just when you're plating up, lots of answers there, and lots of really
Yeah.
good answers. And because of the conversation we had at the start about the fact that some don't sit too neatly, don't if they come up now and one's in a box where you didn't put it, don't necessarily despair about that, shall we say?
No, and I think it's
'Cause-
like your justification. I think it's really important. I
yeah,
think going back to what you guys, if I was to sort of recreate the boxes again and put three, I definitely can see we've had discussions before, that potentially two and four and seven's a hard one because obviously it's the school subcultures potentially start in school and then filter out of school. Because obviously it's a reaction to school, but definitely seep out of school. So yeah, let's see the answer. Obviously, like we said, we're not wedded to these.
So these were Katie's original answers.
I love the way you just. I was trying to fit them into two boxes.
Absolutely.
So obviously labelling, but then obviously again you could even argue that obviously the labels are based on things outside of school. Often you've got Sesame, which is clearly inside school. Culturally biased curriculum, ultimately, clearly in school. And still subcultures, although. Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean,
out of school.
The government sets the national curriculum, which is out of school. Yeah, so all of these things are,
and
then
obviously anti-school subcultures start in school because they're anti, obviously, the authority figures within school. But obviously, as you know, they go outside of school. That's maybe where kids are maybe deciding to truant from school potentially as part of their anti-school subculture. Material deprivation may again start, we said this might start outside of school, but easily, obviously, that deprivation, whether it be around school uniform or not having the resources to learn, that definitely has an impact in school. And schools themselves can be materially deprived. There was some data recently about schools and funding as well. So the funding of a school, correspondence principle.
This is the one.
This is the one, the contentious one. Ultimately, it mirrors with sets and streaming. So obviously, you've got the thing that is your class identity outside of school is corresponded within school, I suppose. So that's definitely one that's both. Parental expectations and support, again, might be outside school, but could be inside school because obviously some parents are able to help inside school, with reading or, get involved in the curriculum, particularly at primary school level. And Nike identity, so obviously how you see yourself outside of school, it definitely has an impact of how you see yourself in school and how teachers do.
Yeah, and it links to sort of subcultures and things, doesn't it? It's an interesting one, isn't it? So I'll be quite a few people are asking why is correspondence theory in school, out of school. I mean, I'll be honest, if I would have probably put correspondence theory and Nike identities as in school factors, and I can totally see why they can be outside factors, and that's the question that's being asked. So correspondence theory, my initial thought would be, and Mira's saying, isn't that the Bowles and Gintis one? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So my initial thought would be, that's an in-school factor because it's about the way schools organise internally to be like. To mirror the workplace, but it's it's what's happening within the school. But that point about it mirroring the workplace, well, the workplace is outside school, isn't it? So it's there's a kind of out of school origin there. We can also debate to what extent it has an impact on achievement by social class. I suppose the main way it does is that it's state schools that mirror the workplace, in terms of the proletariat's role in the workplace, and private schools would mirror, more being a manager or being a boss or whatever. Or that's Bowles and Gintis' argument at any rate. And similarly with
and
kind of
the hierarchies within school as well, isn't it? The hierarchies within schools, which is the sort of teacher-student relationship, head
and
teacher, setting and streaming.
Perhaps things like prefects and things like that as well, isn't it? And Neve's saying, is it about where the process thing takes place though? And I think that's a good point. But so many of these things are not just one or the other, and I think that is actually the critical point. Can we explain two, Nike identity? So again, I might have put it as an in-school factor because it's often about how teachers and other pupils respond, but the fashion and the trends and what you wear and what you choose to wear comes from out of school, doesn't it? Perhaps within school as well, because the peer pressure will happen within school, and some of the attitudes and presumptions come from out of school. It's I think the key point with this would be my major takeaway from this is, obviously, if you're just asked a very short question about outline two in-school factors or out-of-school factors, as long as you can justify and explain why it's happening in school or out of school, then you've correctly identified a factor. But if you've got like an essay about this or something a bit longer or some opportunity to go into a bit more detail, I think a really strong evaluative point is that these things are not separate. Even the ones that seem really obvious, like labelling, that's an in-school factor, that we'd always list that as an in-school factor. But where does the label come from? It is partly an out-of-school factor as well. The process of labelling is happening within the school, like Niamh said. But that label doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from stereotypes and assumptions that the teacher might have based on things
from the media,
from
media
outside school. Media, where people live, their accent, there's all sorts of out of school things. If we take something that we would think of as being completely out of school, like material deprivation is something that happens out of school, but the extent to which it impacts on pupils' achievement is partly an in-school thing, because things might cost money or they might not. There might be resources made available by the government or by the school, or there might not, and that's more of an in-school issue, isn't it? So the interplay between these is actually where the kind of analysis and evaluation and higher order thinking comes in. So I wouldn't want anyone to kind of to worry themselves dreadfully about is correspondence theory an inside school or out school factor.
I suppose the key is in the word, isn't it? Correspondence interplay with school and the structure outside of society. So it definitely clearly sits within both. And obviously, like we said, it's justification between them. Obviously, like we said, I can't remember who said it now, that I can't see all the names, is the interactions that happen within the processes that happen within school in response to the social structure. And definitely, with the Nike identity, you might not, how I'm reading, you might have not heard of that concept linked to Louise Archer. So again, don't worry about that. It's not one that you have to know. It's just a study. So again,
but worth having a read.
If you haven't heard of it, it's not.
Worth having a read. If you go onto the Tutor2 website and type in Nike identities or Archer, there'll be a nice summary of the study on there, which will be worth having a look at, because it is a useful study to have a look at, and some of Louise Archer's other studies actually as well. Lots of good studies to do with education and identity,
and particularly higher education as well.
Okay,
fantastic.
So after that controversy, I think there's going to be some controversy on this one as well.
I think it's good. Do you know what it shows you? It shows you're definitely year 13 students, because you can see the grey areas in sociology. And I was actually, funny enough, having this conversation with a member of staff today, that I was lucky enough to have a doctor of sociology speak to my students today. And we're just saying that actually the great thing about getting into year 13 is you start to see the grey areas in sociology. I think in year 12 it's very much in boxes and categories, and then when you get, which is why looking at synopticity at the moment, I kind of say the brace again, is really good, because actually you can see all those grey areas across all your topics, and that everything's really interlinked. So actually that's where your sort of high order thinking skills are coming in now, which is brilliant.
So I'm going to say with this one, because we've got which of the following ideas can be applied to ethnic differences in educational achievement, I reckon, especially some of you, because some of you are really good and you're doing some really good work there, I bet almost all of these you could probably, with sufficient chain of reasoning and sufficient sort of levels and along the way, you could probably make a connection. You could probably say, well, actually, I could link that to that, because that's then gone on to have this other effect that eventually has an impact on ethnicity. But I suppose what we're going for is the more direct ones, or ones where you can think of a particular study that maybe looked at that. But even so, I suspect you're going to it's going to be another point of controversy, and that's good, because that's where the source of the discussion and debate comes. So we're looking for kind of grid references essentially, and one of you's already started there. It's the anon has started getting some of these, and already controversial, but not in a bad way, because as I said, you could link a lot of these, I should think, in kind of different sort of ways.
again, it's saying that synoptic thinking. It depends what units you've picked up as well, doesn't it? So if you've looked at, say, culture and identity, you may be looking at sort of gender socialisation a little bit more, or if you looked at culture difference, there's different topics that might link quite well across to the education unit.
Okay, so we've got some interesting answers coming in already. So a couple of people have gone with, let's have a look. So a couple of suggestions of 1B, which is gender socialisation. So my initial thought with that would be, well, that would impact gender rather than ethnicity. Obviously, as I mentioned before, you could probably make a chain of reasoning if someone wants to. You can do a link to, perhaps gender differences within certain ethnic groups and things like that. So, it'd be quite interesting. So, we've also got suggestion. I saw someone go with 2C literacy levels. I mean, to be honest, that there isn't much research out there to suggest that has much impact on ethnic differences in educational achievement, specifically relating to ethnicity. B1, you see, this is the sort of thing I was saying, you might be able to make. So obviously we would tend to think of crisis of masculinity as relating to gender, but could you make a link to ethnicity? You might be able to. Neve's having a go there. 1C, Eagle's linked to ethnocentric curriculum. That's sounding good to me. Lewis has talked about racism in wider society and how that might impact. You've mentioned the housing market and then linking to deprived area, overcrowding, material deprivation. All sounds good to me. 2C, could it be linked to English as an additional language? It could be. I mean, research suggests that even children who speak English as a second language, by the time you sort of reach GCSE level, it doesn't really have an impact. Obviously, very recent migrants, it might do, but it's not a significant player in the issue of ethnicity and achievement, interestingly. But yes, I mean, the literacy level is quite the same as language speaking. But anyway, I can see how you might make that link. Okay, so as I said, this had the likelihood of being controversial. These are the ones that we've got there. I could definitely probably add teacher-pupil interactions. Obviously, we tend to think about that in terms of gender and social class, but you could have, I can think of studies that looked at, racism by
teachers. Talk about it,
yeah,
don't they?
Absolutely. So we could definitely have included that one. We could make a case with most of the others, as people have tried to do, or several of the others as people have tried to do in the things. But the main ones we've got there: structured curriculum. People have done a good job there with the talking about ethnocentric curriculum, relative deprivation, linking it to left realism, parental support. There's been some research, different attitudes to education. We've got racism in wider society, I suppose one of the clearer ones. Cultural differences might link with some of the ones we've already mentioned. Anonymous Blob saying 3B could link to Fuller's self-negating prophecy. Absolutely could. I absolutely agree. There are a few studies you could link to that one. Urfath saying, what about minority ethnic groups being more likely to use the restricted language code? You could look into that. Again, Bernstein's study was more about social class, but you could consider it and look at it. Okay. So there's lots of good responses there and good debates and discussion about how.
I think it's really healthy. I was going to say, I mean, keep on saying the same thing. It's the way you explain it. I think the danger sometimes, and I know I've seen this in the past, and I'm sure Duncan has as well, or when students have said it, is sometimes I bring in because you imagine you're in exam conditions and you're quite stressed. The temptation is to bring in a concept, and then you've maybe made the link back to ethnicity, though you might be talking about gender socialisation, but somehow it's then sort of gone on a bit of a tangent, and then next minute you know you're just talking about gender and education, no longer talking about ethnicity. So if you are going to be doing that, make sure those links are really, really super clear. So if you're talking about relative deprivation, equally, although that's there for ethnicity, make sure you don't then slip into talking about social class.
Yeah.
Keep it about why are ethnic minorities more likely to be relatively deprived compared to other groups within society.
If you think about it as a sort of chain of reasoning or as stepping stones between the different bits of your points, make sure you've kind of followed every point. You haven't skipped a bit where it's like, oh, actually, but hang on a minute, how does that link to ethnicity? Make sure it does. If you can do, you could do. Mira's talking about Bereiter and Engelman. That's a very, very old study that's largely been largely been discredited now. Obviously, it's in some of the textbooks. It exists. You can reference it, but I think if you do, you should reference it critically and say this is based on some sort of pretty old-fashioned assumptions and things, and there's been more recent research that suggests it wasn't really that if it probably not still relevant, but yeah, that's okay. It is as I said, it is in some of the textbooks. It was taken just as an interesting point. It used to be on the teaching guide for AQA A-level sociology, and it disappeared when they did a bit of an update recently, and on the basis that it's a pretty outdated study now. But yeah, you're right, absolutely. Okay. Last activity, it's my favourite, just a bit of fun, just to finish off. Well done, everyone's done really well. This is Word Smash. It's very like Answer Smash on Richard Osman's House of Games. If you haven't seen it before, I know a lot of you have because you were here last week. I recognise a lot of the names. But if you haven't seen it before, this just explains how you do it. You get a picture and then you get a clue. On the real ones, the clues will be to do with either ethnicity or social class and sociology. And you smash the two together. So in this case, we've got an elephant and Antarctica, and as one of the people in the chat window has said, it becomes Elephantarctica. Okay, let's do it with a real one then. So we've got a photograph of a person, and we've got people going on to act the way they have been labelled.
This is a good one.
You might be able to. You might not recognise the chap. Who is that? Help. He's written novels. He used to be on television quite a bit. Not so much in recent years.
Probably in the last 15 years ago.
We've
got the key concept.
Yes, that's the important bit. Several of people have got the important bit. It's always fun to see if anyone does work out who the who the person is. You're right, it is self-fulfilling prophecy. And that should sort of help you with the first bit, because it obviously needs to sort of end with the beginning of that. But don't worry, if you've not heard of Will Self, it is Will Self and self-fulfilling prophecy, and it becomes Will Self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't need to know who Will Self is. So that's the important. You've got the important bit. So well done. Yeah. The next one might be actually I don't know. The last one I know is a more one that you might find easier. But here we've got. Oh no, I reckon we'll get this one. So it's a poster for a movie. And then we've got a class identified by the New Right, which is similar in some ways to Marx's concept of the lumpen proletariat. I've seen a reference to the class in question already earlier in the session. Someone mentioned it. I think when we were talking about class and crime in the first activity. Does anyone know what the film is? And can they smash it into... well done. So lots of people have got the right term. It is underclass, and the film is Thor: Love and Thunder, so it becomes Thor: Love and Thunder class. So well done, people go Thunderclass. Yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder class, underclass. But you got the right bit, which is the underclass. Well done. Yeah, lots of people got it there. Well done, Lewis, Mira, various people there. Well done. Last one of these. I think you'll get this one pretty quickly. Got a picture of a cartoon character. We've got crimes committed by the wealthy or the middle class. I reckon this one's coming quite fast. Well done. Yeah, several people are getting it. Snow White and white collar crime. Snow White collar crime. So well done for getting the... Important bit of sociology, bit of the white collar crime, but also well done for indulging us and playing the game. Thank you very much. Okay, well done. So, I've gone to the wrong screen. That's I've pressed the wrong button. Here we are. Ignore that little moment of politics there with the wrong colour. Thanks very much. Some really good responses there. I hope you've found it useful. And we've enjoyed it. And yeah, I don't want anyone to go away sort of worrying about those grey areas, as Katie called them, because that's actually where the marks in sociology lie a lot of the time. Certainly in the longer questions, it's in that debate, isn't it? In that discussion, in those grey areas.
Definitely.
That's what
I think
makes
that's
it
a
fun
bit.
as
I think when you do this sort of topic, I think that's what draws it out. And I think this sort of stage, this is where these sort of, like I said, grey areas come out a little bit more in this debate, especially when you sort of look at the structure action debate, potentially, you sort of get that grey area around structuration, and when you look at methodology, potentially, sort of those debates start to draw those things out a little bit more, that they don't fit into neat boxes. Sociology doesn't. Using the words of, I can't remember now, is it Baudrillard? Defamiliarise the familiar. So, there we go.
You always like to get that in, don't you, Kate?
I do.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, my face, I'm frozen there.
You have frozen, but fortunately we're finishing. So we will see you very soon. Keep an eye out and ear out. Make sure, if you haven't already subscribed to us, do so, and then you know when next we're going live. If you do a little thumbs up for the video, it helps other people find these. And thanks very much, guys. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Take care. See you soon. Take care. Bye.